we've covered the basics of the structure of the skin and how it gets its color. It's now time to start talking about all those accessory structures, because they're also very important. They develop from the embryonic epidermis, so sometime long ago in your early development when you're still inside of mama, this stuff all started happening. Cells sink inward during development to form hair. So these cells are originally up on the epidermis in the embryo. They sink down inwards to form hair, oil glands, sweat glands, and nails. And some other things as well, but we'll see that those are broad categories. We're going to get much more specific than that. Okay, so notice in the diagram you can see a sweat gland, you can see an oil gland, you can see a hair. All right. Let's talk about hair a little bit. The technical name for a hair is a pilus, P-I-L-U-S, plural. This is second declension Latin, by the way. All second declension nouns are masculine, and they end in us, and they form their plural by changing the us to an I. That's also how they form the dative and the genitive. I had to take 4 years of Latin in high school. I had to read Caesar's commentaries on the war with Gaul in Latin. Gallia est omnes divisa in partes tres. And Father Hindelang would make us read that, and he would walk around the room with a stick, and if we made a mistake, he would whack us with the stick. And when he would whack you across the shoulder blades, across your scapulas. And when you're hacked across the scapulas with a stick, it causes you to involuntarily do a deep inhale. So you would hear people reading, Gallia est omnes divisa in partes, as Father Hindelang would smack you. Oh God, that was fun. And then, geez, we had to read Virgil's Aeneid in Latin. Arma virumque cano Troiae qui primus arboris. Oh, it was just so sexy and so much fun. Hair is, by the way, not found on the palms, palmar surfaces of the digits, soles, and plantar surfaces of the digits. That's because you normally grip with those surfaces, and hairs would make it not as grippable. So that's why you don't normally find hairs on those places. Hair basically consists of a shaft above the surface, a root that penetrates the dermis and the subcutaneous layer. New hairs develop from cell division of the matrix and the bulb. They're composed mostly of keratin. Both the rate of growth and the replacement cycle can be altered by illness, diet, high fever, surgery, blood loss, severe emotional stress, and gender, among other factors. So hair is actually a diagnostic tool. If people suddenly start losing hair, that's a sign that something's going wrong. Also, as you may know, people undergoing chemotherapy, radiation therapy will lose hair. So I'm not going to emphasize hair really at all. Chemotherapy. I'm not going to emphasize hair. You don't really have to know. You don't have to know the shaft and the root and the matrix and the bulb. I just want you to know hair is an accessory structure, and it does actually do a lot for the body. It provides protection. It also helps insulate from cold weather. So hair is useful. It serves a purpose. You don't have to know all the individual parts. You should probably know that each hair is a pilus, plural pili, or pili. People say it both ways. So this you do have to know, the erector pili. The erector pili is a muscle. It's a smooth muscle that's in the skin. You can see it there in the diagram, the erector pili muscle. And what that does is, in response to cold or fear, it will elevate the hair. It will cause the hair to go erect. We often call those goosebumps or goose flesh. Now, what the hell is up with that? Does that actually have a purpose? Yeah, it does. So in cold weather, the hairs raise up and then they trap a layer of air next to the skin. Now, we humans have lost a lot of our hair through evolution, so that doesn't work well with us. But you know, like a Labrador retriever, you know, the dog, you know how people like hunt up with them, and you know, in Michigan and Wisconsin and Minnesota, and they shoot pheasant and ducks and stuff, and they fall into freezing cold water, and the lab jumps into the water and swims and gets it and brings it back, and you think, oh my God, how can the lab do that? Well, that Labrador isn't actually getting any of that cold water next to its skin. The hair has raised up, it's created a buffer layer of warm air right next to the skin, and that lab is staying nice and warm the whole time. It's not getting cold at all. Again, in humans that doesn't work. And fear, why does it stand up with fear? Well, in nature, size matters. So a lot of animals, when they get scared, you watch cats will do this, all their hairs, you know, flare out. It's a way to try to make you look bigger, Because oftentimes in nature, if things look bigger, you don't want to mess with them. That's why they tell you, for example, if you ever see a mountain lion and it starts approaching you, raise your arms up above your body. Look bigger. Mountain lions are thinking, oh, gosh, I don't know, is it worth it? Is this meal worth it? Might save your life, okay? So, and you felt that before, you know, like you're sitting in the dark by yourself, alone at home, watching a scary movie, and the cat knocks something over in the kitchen, and you feel all those hairs stand up on the back of your neck. Yeah, those are your erector pili muscles. Another name, piloerector, either one is fine. The hair root plexus. So look, you can see on the left side of the diagram there is the hair root plexus. These are free nerve endings that surround the hair. And their purpose really is that when something touches your hair, the hair will wiggle a little bit, and it will actually, even the base of the hair down deep inside will move just a little tiny bit, and that stimulates those free nerve endings, the hair root plexus, and that sends signals back to the brain letting you know that something is touching you. I mean, you know that, even like a little bug or whatever. If it's just moving the hairs of your arm, you feel it. So this is a survival response. If there's something on your body, you need to know about it. So the hair is trying to let you know, hey, something's touching me right now. And that's also why it hurts when you pluck out a hair. When you pluck a hair, you rip off that little hair root plexus down there. So you tear off the end of a nerve. And what does a nerve do when that happens? It basically screams in pain. And it sends that scream to your brain. So you go, ow! You know, do that again, I'll kick your ass. Leave me alone, get away from me. All right, so sebaceous is the technical name for an oil gland, and you see one right there on the left-hand side. They are usually attached to hair follicles. What's their purpose? They soften the hair and they waterproof the skin. So they're coating your hair with an oily substance called sebum, and that's one of the things that helps prevent split ends, all right? It keeps the hair shaft pliable, flexible, soft, okay? And what do you do every day? You get into the shower and you take shampoo, and you wash your hair with shampoo. What does that do? Well, it takes all the oil off of your hair. Your body worked very hard to put that oil on there. Now you use shampoo and you take it all off. And then what do you use as soon as you're done with the shampoo? You use conditioner. And what is conditioner? Yeah, it's oil. So you take all of nature's oil off of your hair, and then you put artificial oil on your hair, and all you're doing is buying a Mercedes or funding a night out on the town in LA for somebody who's the CEO of the company that made the conditioner, and they're just laughing all the way to the bank at you for taking all nature's hard-worked, hard-earned oil that put on the hair and washing it off and then putting their oil back on your hair. So hair growth, wow, look at that. Damn, I guess that's what happens when you're in quarantine. You can't get a haircut. Oh, that's what we're all going to look like pretty soon. Hair grows fastest from adolescence into the 40s. Starts slowing down at that point. Normal hair loss, 50 to 100 hairs per day throughout your life, but you have well over 1 million hairs on your head, so you don't even, well, you start to notice as you get older, but not as you're young. But again, over time, you'll start to notice hair loss. Thinning of hair is called alopecia. That's a word I want you to know. It's a good word. Happens in both males and females, by the way. Happens as you get older. You lose hair. Can't help it. Nothing. Some people lose more than others. There are differences in genetics, but everybody loses a little bit. There you see what's called male pattern baldness. And again, it's part of its genetics. It's just, you know, your genes are just programmed to lose hairs more in one place than another. Normally, I'm 70 years old. I've got some male pattern baldness. So normally at this point, I take off my baseball cap and hold my head down, let people vote on which one of those they think is me. And it's usually, I think I'm somewhere around, I'm in the upper row there, towards the, I'm about halfway down, more on the right side. Yeah, it doesn't matter, who cares? And there you can see with females, oftentimes it happens in a different way, mostly from the central area on the top of the skull, up there on the parietal bones. So, like if you're in a nursing home, assisted living facility, if you kind of like, you know, sneak up behind an old lady and look down, you can see she'll often have a bald spot. Don't scare her and cause her to have a heart attack or something. But you can often see both men and women lose hair as they get older. That's called alopecia. All right. So some glands of the skin now. Here we go. Specialized exocrine glands found in the dermis. Remember the difference between exocrine and endocrine? You should know that from Bio 156. Exocrine are secreted either to the surface of the body or to the lumen of an organ. So for example, digestive enzymes are exocrine because they go into your small intestine and into your stomach. Endocrine are into the blood by definition. Those are hormones. So we're talking about exocrine secretions here. So sebaceous or oil glands, sudoriferous or sweat glands. There are two kinds, apocrine and merocrine. Merocrine are also called ecrine. It's not my fault. There's nothing I can do about it. They named all this before I was born. I had to learn the names, and now you do too. It's just a fact of life. You have to know that merocrine and ecrine mean the same thing. Apocrine is very different, and we'll look at those differences coming up. Ceruminous glands are the wax glands in your ear. They produce the waxy stuff called cerumen. And mammary glands are milk glands. So 4 basic kinds of glands in humans: sebaceous, sudoriferous, ceruminous, and mammary. Lots of other animals have lots of glands. So you see on the tortoise there on the left, under its chin, you see that little gland right there called a hedonic gland. Hedonic has to do, the root word has to do with pleasure. So those produce pheromones. Pheromones are chemicals that signal a lot of things in nature, sometimes a warning chemical, a fear chemical, but sometimes a reproduction chemical. So male tortoises will actually go up and rub their hedonic glands on a female, and that may help get her into the mood. And guys, don't you wish it was that easy? You could just go up and rub your chin, and then she would go, oh, yeah, no, that wouldn't be good. That would be terrible, actually. So hair function and color. Hair, what does it do? It does a lot of things. Prevents heat loss, decreases sunburn, protects your eyes, eyelashes do. Senses light touch, the hair root plexus, like we talked about a moment ago. Normal hair color has to do with melanin again, and it's the 2 different kinds. So if you have brown or black hair, you've got mostly eumelanin. If you've got blonde or red hair, you got mostly pheomelanin. And of course, the different mixes give rise to all different hair colors. You got the people, they call them dishwater blondes. That's probably a horrible term, but my mom used to say she was a dishwater blonde. That's where you got a weird mix of eumelanin, pheomelanin, lots of different hair colors possible. So it's not a big deal. Graying is as you get older, you don't make as much melanin, and white is where the hair has little air bubbles in it, okay? And you know how there are those old ladies that have blue hair? I have no damn idea what's going on there, all right? So, and most of the hair color you see in these pictures is not natural, and that's cool too, because we can all use artificial colors on our hair. I used to do that for St. Patrick's Day. I would dye my hair green back when I had hair. And for Halloween, I would dye my hair orange. It's fun. You get this spray on stuff, only lasts a few days. Why not? Have a little fun in life, okay? Hormones can greatly influence growth and loss of hair. So once again, if you see somebody suddenly losing hair, that's a sign that something's going on. You better investigate. So sebaceous glands. These are the oil glands. They're normally attached to hair follicles. Again, they're providing oil that will soften, make the hair flexible, prevent split ends. You don't have them palms and soles because that's where you normally grip with. The secretory portion is down in the dermis. It produces a substance called sebum. Sebum is made up of lots of things: cholesterol, proteins, fats, and salts. But it's an oily type of substance, okay? It moistens the hairs, waterproofs and softens the skin, and it even inhibits the growth of bacteria and fungi, or fungi. Say it either way, I don't care. I'm kind of a fun guy. So, by the way, ringworm, that's actually not a worm, it's actually a fungus. But so once again, sebum has various purposes. Your body doesn't do things just randomly. Most things your body does do have a purpose. And sebaceous or oil glands, that's what's involved in pimples and acne. So what happens is that's a blackhead. You just basically get dirt or gunk that blocks the opening of the sebaceous gland, and then sebum builds up underneath. And what happens is there's bacteria always all over everything in the universe, including your skin. So when it gets blocked, there are bacteria, and the bacteria start to proliferate and grow, and then that's what makes the pimple. All right, that's all there is to it. So, and then white blood cells come to try to kill the bacteria. So, what's actually in the pimple? People think, ooh, that's gross. It's it's just sebum and dead bacteria and white blood cells. So, I mean, if you're going to be a nurse, you're going to deal with a lot more gross stuff than that, okay? So just get over it. Bacterial inflammation of sebaceous glands. And remember puberty? Remember when all your hormones suddenly went crazy? Yeah, so sebaceous glands become more active during hormonal activity, and that's why pimples generally start to show up around puberty. And then those hormone secretions decrease as you get older, and by the time you're in your 40s, that doesn't really happen much anymore. Sudoriferous or sweat glands, all right. So eccrine and merocrine sweat glands have an extensive distribution all over your body, and their purpose is to cool your body. So these are the ones that when you heat up, you perspire. These are the glands, eccrine and merocrine, same gland, just two different names for it. Bring water to the surface of the body, and then you cool by evaporation. It's called evaporative cooling. It's the same way a swamp cooler works, okay? As water evaporates, it cools the surface underneath, all right? It's mostly water, some salt, some waste such as urea. So generally speaking, it doesn't smell on its own. As bacteria get into it, though, it will start to smell. And that's, again, it's the urea and the bacteria. Urea is a nutrient the bacteria get there. So it can get stinky. That's why when you work out at the gym, you get stinky. The sweat itself is not all that stinky, but the bacteria and some of the things in the sweat are a little bit stinky. Then the apocrine glands. These are sweat glands limited in distribution to the axilla, that's your armpit, the pubis, your pubic area, the areolae, that little dark area around the nipple. They're also found around the anus. So these are very special sudoriferous glands. They often open onto hair follicles. The secretions are more viscous. What does viscous mean? Viscous means thick. Like, in the lower left corner when you buy motor oil, you can buy different viscosities, 30 weight, 40 weight. I remember the stuff in my steering box was 90 weight. So they're more viscous. These sweat glands, sudoriferous glands more formally, are activated by stress and sexual arousal. So when you get nervous, the sympathetic nervous system kicks in, you start sweating through these glands. Also sexual arousal. So again, that's why look at where they're found. Pubis, areolae, around the anus. So this is the kind of, I guess if I had to characterize it, the apocrine or merocrine sweat gland, that can be stinky, after you work out. That's the kind of sweat that, when you smell it, you kind of go, ugh. And the apocrine sweat, when you smell that, you kind of go, ah. All right, you know what I'm saying? There's the sweat that makes you go, ugh. And there's the sweat that makes you go, ah. All right? Apocrine sweat, that's the sweat, all right? That's the kind of sweat that kind of goes along with sexual arousal and stress, which often can go together as well. And in the upper right-hand corner, that's a book, Confederate General from Big Sur, written by Richard Brautigan, writer back in the 60s and 70s. I read a lot of his books. They were pretty funny. He was a funny writer. But in this book, Confederate General from Big Sur, the lead character in the book, a couple come to visit him, a man and a woman come to visit him, and they stay in his guest bedroom. And the next day he's going to make breakfast, so he's thinking he'll ask them if they want breakfast. So he goes up and knocks on the door, and they say, "Come in." And he said that the moment he entered their room, he knew that they had just had sex. And he said it smelled, and the way he knew that, he said the room smelled like Cupid's gymnasium. And I thought, wow, what a great description. If you're trying to describe what apocrine sweat smells like, it smells like Cupid's gymnasium. I'm pretty sure you know that smell, okay? And again, it may contain pheromones in it, just like the hedonic gland with the tortoise. Humans have pheromones. The thing with humans is they're just not as powerful as they are in animals. We have more conscious control over our response. We're not just programmed completely by chemicals. Ceruminous glands, they form earwax, which is cerumen. They're modified sudoriferous glands. So they're modified sweat glands that just produce a really waxy sweat. They're found in the external auditory canal, all right, the outer passageway leading into your ear. They're a barrier for entrance of foreign bodies and may discourage insects. So think about it, that nice dark ear canal. A lot of bugs would think, ooh, this looks good. They'd want to crawl right in there and make themselves a home. Apparently cerumen is unpleasant to the insects, and so that's why they tend to stay out. Abnormal amount of cerumen can actually cause impaction and prevent sound waves from reaching the eardrum. You can get impacted cerumen, like you see in that middle illustration on the right. Yeah, it can actually inhibit your hearing. And so when that happens, you need to get it out of there. Don't use the little Q-tips, the cotton swabs. Those don't work. All you do is pack it in there thicker. Plus, you can actually hit the eardrum and puncture your eardrum. And I have had people tell me that that happened to them. So it does happen in real life. And that's a very painful thing if you puncture that eardrum. So don't do that. Don't use those Q-tips. That's not what they're for. And ear candles and ear vacuums are some of the most ridiculous scams in the history of humanity. I just can't believe it. You see there in the lower, on the bottom right, the leftmost illustration, that's an ear candle. It's this thing that you roll up and you stick it in the ear and then you light it on fire and then you blow it out, and it's supposed to suck the wax out of your ear. And they've actually done studies on this because people use them and they go, oh, look, here, see, this is all the wax that's sucked out. No, they've analyzed in the lab. It's wax from the damn candle, you dumbass. All right, ear candles, completely worthless. And then ear vacuums, those were on TV for a while, a few years ago. Oh my God, they would show this moronic smiling person, like in the lower right, with this ear vacuum. It was like, yeah, it sucks the wax out. No, it doesn't, you dumbass. Just all you're doing is biting a Mercedes for somebody. You're basically allowing them to enlarge the swimming pool in their backyard. The ear, nose, throat guys will tell you, don't put anything smaller than your elbow into your ear. People do this all the time. They cause significant ear damage by trying to stick stuff in there and clean it out. Don't do that. What do you do instead? You can go to the Walgreens or the grocery store. They got this stuff called D-Brox. It's just a weak acid, like a carbolic acid or something. You just drop it in there and it loosens up the wax, and then you take some warm water and you wash it out. You know, the doctor will do it for you. They'll charge you like $50, or you can do it at home. So that's the way to do it. And then mammary glands, modified apocrine glands. All right, remember apocrine was a type of Sudoriferous. They produce milk. They channel it through ducts to a nipple. By the way, there are lots of lactiferous ducts, you can see they're called. And it's not just one. It's not like on a baby bottle. There's just not one duct. There are actually bunches of them, like 10 or so. My wife was pregnant and had kids, and so I got to see that. You can see actually several little tiny bubbles of milk around the nipple. The breast, by the way, is just the accessory structure. It's not the mammary gland. The mammary gland is inside of the breast. The breast is just an accessory structure. It's basically just a big blob of adipose tissue. That's all it is. Or silicone or saline, if you had them modified. Primates have only 2 nipples. Most mammals have 2 rows. You know, they give birth to a whole litter. And it's possible to have supernumerary nipples. That's extra nipples. And in the Middle Ages, you were a witch. They'd kill you. So supernumerary nipples, by the way, occur along the nipple lines, which are found in both males and females. So there are the nipple lines. An interesting kind of a genetic throwback. We've still got the gene that wants to produce rows of nipples instead of just 2. And so normally when you have supernumerary nipples, they show up along those nipple lines. A very common place is in the armpit. A lot of times people think they have like a little mole in their armpit. And look carefully, it's actually an extra nipple. They're not a big deal. You can get a dermatologist will cut them off if you want them to. And sometimes, like Mark Wahlberg has a supernumerary nipple on his chest, and I think he actually pierced his at one point. So, you know, normally I ask in class, and there's almost always at least one, if not more, people in the class that either have supernumerary nipples or who know someone who does. So they're actually pretty common. And there you go. One of the most famous witches of all time, Margaret Hamilton from The Wizard of Oz. One of the best witches ever. She was fantastic. And if animals were as modest as we are, that's what they would have to do. 2 nipple lines, okay? All right, here you go. Which type of gland cools the body? Merocrine, mammary, sebaceous, apocrine, or ceruminous? Have you been following along? This should be easy. Yeah, it's the merocrine gland. I just grabbed this table out of another book. It's a good summary of all the different glands. So use that as you're preparing for the exam. Great summary table Just describes everything there, lists them all in nice, concise space. You can study all of them all at the same time.